Alright, there we go. Check, check, check. Oh my days, there we go. Oh shit, I'm way too loud. Bring this sucker down. There you go. That should be better. Bow! Is that too loud? Bang, bang, bang. I'm not going to talk that loud because I'm not that kind of bruh. You know, that ain't me. I ain't a screamer. Is there sound? You tell me, Morera gang. Yeah, absolutely. Abso-fluffin'-lutely. Can you hear me? You hear me? I hope you're all doing well, boys. Boys, 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 boys. What are we doing today? What do you think we're doing today? We're complaining about architecture. You know, that's a common theme here. We're just going to complain. I have a few things I want to talk about. The brutalism videos you did was inaccurate as fuck. Go ahead, tell me why. Tell me, my friend. Let me just put in Discord, live complaining about ugly buildings. There we go. At everyone, because I'm a dick and I want to ping everyone until they leave the server. Everyone, there we go. Send message. All right. Was my hi mate, watching from the colony. What is in? You're from? I can't see your emoji and it says AU, so I'm guessing you mean Argentina, Australia. I don't know. One or the other. I'm not expecting less than another inaccurate chat. Go on, George. Give me the fucking details. You know, you're complaining, so tell me why I'm so wrong, my friend. And secondly, why you're putting yourself through my inaccurate measure of ugly buildings. Go ahead, tell me. Genuinely though, like I never claim I know everything. I'm just learning. All I'm seeing is ugly buildings, and when you look into it, was not he who created okay, so Corbusier didn't create brutalism. Let's look into this claim. So YouTube, there we go. Alright, cool. So who invented brutalism? I might be wrong here. Le Corbusier. Right. So, and that's the Tate Modern, so like, you know, the Institute of Modern Art. So I would say probably I'd listen to them. But you can tell me if I'm wrong. You know, go ahead. Was not he who created brutalism? All never means all. I never said that. Good. All good. Aussie, yeah, wicked. Hi, mate. Hello, everyone. Yes. Did you study architecture at some point, or is it just an interest in you? Completely an interest. I didn't go to uni. I didn't do anything. I have a weird life story where I knew I didn't need to go to uni, and I pretty much recommend everyone goes to uni, to be honest, but I knew I didn't. So I didn't go to uni. I just spent time doing my thing. And then through making videos, you got to think like, I researched lots of topics, and you start to kind of see things, hear things, and understand things. And architecture is one that has really fascinated me because there's a whole movement, and I kind of want to talk about it. There's this whole movement at the moment. I've noticed this sort of rise in a hatred towards modern architecture, and it's really interesting. It seems to be a thing. There's this Facebook page called Architectural Uprising, the Alternative to Ugliness, and so they make a lot of articles. They have a website, and we can go through some of the stuff. I wanted to maybe go through this article, but basically they talk about, well, they show good examples of ugly architecture and good architecture. A lot of the time what they'll do is show before and afters. So let's try and find some. Here we go, there's a before and after. That's it just being built, I think. And sometimes there's a thing going on at the moment in architecture, which seems to be restoration projects of restoring old beautiful buildings that have been replaced. So here's a good example. In 1978, this is what this building looked like. The old square in 1978 in Hildesheim in Germany. It was very beautiful before World War II. And this is something we always have to bear in mind. You know, we can complain about modern architecture, but we do have to understand historical context was we had a war, you know, some fucking beauty got destroyed, and the quick, easy way of bringing buildings back, were just to make these kind of ugly fucking buildings. And at the time when it was first made, maybe it didn't seem so ugly because it was fresh, but these buildings age like shit, and they, they're ugly. So this is like a movement that's happening. I don't know where it's coming from. All I know is I follow this Facebook page and they like to post about it a lot. But in 1978 it looked like this, and in 2008 they restored it to its former glory. This has been a thing that you see more and more starting to happen. There's kind of two things happening. So there's this. Look at this before and after. Look at that. Beautiful. An apartment house in Santa Barbara Street in Warsaw was uglified in 1970s, and in 2015 it was renovated back to its former glory. Now, if that's saying Santa Barbara, I think... Oh, no, in Warsaw. Warsaw's an interesting one. Like, I was just in Warsaw, and you see there's a lot of this sort of restoration of old beautiful buildings. And I love this movement. I'm really happy this is finally fucking happening, where people are waking up to realise that that's not acceptable. That is outrageously ugly. And so they're bringing beautiful buildings like this. Okay, so that's kind of it. We're going to go through a few videos. We're going to talk about this topic, but I want to hear you guys' opinions, to be honest. Good architecture can solve the loneliness epidemic. I think good architecture, in a way, can help the loneliness epidemic. I think there's a lot of economic reasons that are pushing people to become more lonely and isolate. I think it's a cultural issue, but I do think partly architecture has a massive role to play. If you live in a beautiful area that's well designed to integrate community, I believe in what you're saying for sure. Now, you okay? You feel you have a great title and it can bring many views. New video thing. I mean, at least the video add the words some or most. Why modern architecture? When news makes crazy. All right, clickbait. This is what annoys me, is when people complain about clickbait and they watch the video and I clearly take the video in a different direction, or at least I expand on title. Ultimately, the way it works on YouTube is you can't put words like most, some. You have to be extreme, and it's annoying, but that's just the life that we live, bro. And you kind of have to clickbait. You live in 2024. I feel like you're having a conversation that people would have had in 2015 when people complain about it, but you just have to accept clickbait now. Modern architecture is dumb because it's cheap. Newer buildings or visual aesthetics are expensive. This is one that I want to look into, right? They have an article in here which talks about, can we afford modernist buildings? Because everyone makes this argument that modernist buildings are cheaper. I don't think this is probably a fair analogy, but they give the example here that this piece of ugly shite costs 274 million, and then this beautiful thing costs 130 million. This is probably just one example, and it probably isn't. I remember reading this and not necessarily thinking it was very accurate. But they made one point in it, which is like a supply and demand argument. So people will say this, let's just get a good example. This is clearly cheaper than this, and that is probably true. But I think in part, markets dictate the price of things, right? And we live in a free market society where we're kind of against the idea of putting government pressures to, in some regards, putting government pressures to change how business behaves. They sort of believe, in the argument of architecture, if the market wants to buy this, and if the market's okay with buying this, then why make this? Because this is more expensive. And so the market makes this, right? That's the supply-demand kind of argument. But if a government stepped in, this is my opinion, and I might be completely wrong, but if a government stepped in and said, no, you can't build this because it's ugly as shit, and if you actually, this isn't a new practice, in England, we have rules around what you can make, but the rules are just bullshit. The rules don't give a fuck. But there are rules in England. So, for instance, in the town that I grew up in, there was a building that wanted to add bigger windows. They weren't allowed to make bigger windows because the council have to approve that decision. They have to say, well, does it fit the style of the area? Is it nice? So they have the power, right? The power exists, but it's the way the power is used. It doesn't seem to be used well. So if a government said, you can't make that, why? They ask, because it's fucking ugly. And say the market just forcibly changed that, just said, like, you have to make it look more beautiful. It has to have some details. If it's built in like a town centre or something like that, you can do what you want on your own private land out the way. But like, say it was in a town centre, it has to have some aesthetic value, especially if it's like a historic town and it has lots of old history. Those rules exist, and they should exist. So if you made that and you enforced that rule, then what would the market do? Well, the market would have to make a lot of this, and obviously the prices will be higher in the beginning, so we will spend more money. But over time, just how markets work is you find newer ways with new technologies of how to make this stuff for cheap. If there is a mass demand, if every building had to sort of look like this, or just indeed like better looking architecture, the market would have to adapt. It would eventually bring the pricing down on these more detailed, intricate things. And a lot of people, when they talk about the price of architecture, and this is, bear in mind, I'm not an architect, so I don't know this for fact, is when they talk about these kind of buildings costing so much, it's largely because the demand isn't there. So you need experts that know how to do this style. With the modern abilities to manufacture and produce and make beautiful buildings, we could likely bring this price down if we did it on a mass scale. But we don't do it on a mass scale. That's why it costs so much now, because we're doing things bespoke. Like, you know, there'll be one or two experts who know this style of architecture. And that's what I'm saying. So if we made more demand for this beautiful thing, we'd lose these sort of ugly things. Let's go through some comments. What would Phil Doyle think about this? He's from Cambridge. I'm sure Phil Doyle loves beautiful architecture. Cambridge is stunning. I think architects represent the mindset of the people of the time it's built in. I don't know if that's true, because I think right now they don't. I think it's very clear. There's these articles on Architect Uprising where they talk about when surveyed, there seems to be a disconnect between architects and the people. So like there's articles where it says stuff like VR study shows people prefer traditional architect over modernist designs. And there's been, I think, a few studies. It's not like probably a very research field, but there's quite a few like arguments to say that most people don't like modernism. Like, just generally don't like modernism. It makes sense. Like, it's just flat and plain and boring. Like, there's no intrigue or interest to that building, right? I mean, that's a terrible example of modernism. Can it ever be done well? Yeah, for sure. But the way it's being done, right? And so there is you can make the argument that it represents the mindset of the people, but I think right now architects have a very different attitude towards how cities should look and how buildings should be built, as opposed to the people that actually live in it. And I think that disconnect started with the whole modernist movement. I had that clip in my I really like this clip in my video that I made about, what's it called? This one.
In a couple of weeks.
So how many people are there?
Here, no.
Originally, council housing was not associated
You guys
in any
hear it? Yeah, you can. Maybe it's just I need to unplug this.
way with crime. And in fact,
My headphones are not plugged in. But yeah, so where is the clip? I can find it.
Know who they designed them for, or if they think that we feel or think any differently than they do.
There we go.
There must be reasons
This
that
bit.
we don't know.
So I love this clip that I put in this video, because to me it really details the kind of disconnect between architects and people.
best.
This is Dennis Lasdon,
So this is like an arty guy who works at Tate Modern, sort of talking about brutalism, right?
National Theatre, completed in 1976. Prince Charles thought it looked like a nuclear power station. What Charles meant was that it was an industrial looking building, something that was rather bleak and uncompromising, something that didn't look like a theatre. But that was the point.
I don't know who designed.
That bit right there, that was the point. And he just literally said, because he's such an, you know, this is how arty people think, especially, I'm going to say like kind of middle class, upper class, you know, arty people. They will fucking conceptualize everything. And they can make the argument that brutalism's meant to make you feel something. And if that's uncomfort, then that's the point, because it's art. And I don't think I actually put this in the video, but I originally had a counter argument. I was like, so if brutalism's meant to make you feel something, and if uncomfortable and depressed is like the feeling, you've achieved something, right? You've achieved your set out goal, which is to make you feel something. But there's a difference in the art of, say, like architecture, which is an art form, and then the art of like a film or music, right? So you can make a song. There are people that make music that is deliberately like scary, you know, like Scar-Lord screams in your ears or whatever. And the thing is, both of these are artistic expressions, and in art, in a film and in music, you can kind of get away with doing that. But when it comes to architecture, I think there are different rules that apply, because the artistic purpose of architecture is to make people live in these things, right? Or to kind of be in them for a longer period of time. With music, you can click pause. With a film, you finish watching it, you can forget about the film, or you can just turn it off, right? You can do that. With architecture, you can't do that. Architecture is permanent. And I think the idea of making like a movement in architecture to make sort of uncomfortable buildings like brutalism, it's inhuman, and it doesn't consider the purpose of what the art of architecture is. It's not disposable like music, and it's not disposable like film. So you have to kind of keep people's well-being in mind, and I think architecture should always have the well-being of humans in mind, and should think how it makes people feel. And obviously, people want to feel good. I think it's the one art. I'm trying to think of it as another one, but I think it's quite an exceptional case in art where you don't get the right just to sort of express yourself in any way. Like make an ugly, horrific building just to make people feel uncomfortable. I don't know if you get that right in art, in architecture. Yeah, like maybe in isolated instances away from where people live, you can do it on private property on land. But if you're in the centre of a public city, I just don't think it's fair to do that. Let's have a look at this. Someone said a survey. Oh yeah. Let me carry on playing this clip. It's an important clip. So this architect makes this claim that, you know, it's about making you feel something.
Something that didn't look like a theatre, but that was the point.
I don't know who designs them. I don't know who they design them for, or if they think that we feel or think any differently than they do. There must be reasons why these architects build these flats in this design and in this hard, barrack-looking way, because I'm sure they couldn't possibly like the structure and the outlook of them themselves. I don't think there was an awful lot of thought put into it. If they would have only consulted ordinary people who have to live in these places, what we would like.
Many of the modernists are a reaction of the horror.
There you go. So, you know, this was being said all the way back when this sort of movement started. I think that clip was from the earliest it would have been like 70s, 60s, 70s. And so people at the time were saying this. They're like, they don't like it. But architects have this different attitude, right? Whenever I was watching so many of these interviews with these architects, and they talk about like sort of making a new world and stuff. What was the name of those? There was like these I think it was a brother and sister or a married couple. Oh, what the fuck? That's a horrible thumbnail. What were they called? It was like the Smithsons on housing. There we go. God, how do I remember that? I'm not the guy with a good memory. These two, right? These two people created one of the ugliest estates. So the Smithsons architecture, what did they make? Yeah, often associated with New Brutalism and urban theory. So they created, Robin Hood Estates, that was it, which was one of the most like deprived, ugly. This is Robin Hood Estates, and people hated this. It was just ugly and depressing and became crime-ridden. One does have to think that architecture probably does influence social behaviour, I think, in a way. Happy-looking areas, probably. I don't think this is a massive claim, but probably, if a place looks nice, it probably does influence people's moods, for sure. But listen to these people talk, right? These are the people in charge of this shit. And just listen out for like the disconnect.
Society at the moment asks architects to build these new homes for them. But, I mean, this may be really stupid. We may have to rethink the whole thing.
Fuck me, she was aware straight away. She literally said, this might be stupid. What we're about to do, building the fucking Robin Hood Estates, this might be a bad idea. Building this might be a bad idea. We might have to rethink it. She fucking said it in the first 10 seconds. And no one took that as like a, a warning sign.
Maybe that we should only be asked to repair the roofs and add the odd bathroom to the old industrial houses and just leave people where they are to smash it up in complete abandon and happiness so that nobody has to worry about it anymore.
We still feel under an obligation to give to provide the best possible quality, irrespective of what people expect and what treatment it's going to get.
Yet another building site in the East End of London. An East End rebuilt almost out of recognition to those who knew it before the war. But this
I want to reply to a comment.
The first flat.
City. It is a model,
okay, so
an exemplar.
Someone here, right? So Lord Sneed, or is it Lord Sneed? You were sort of making a point from kind of a socialist, an anti-socialist attitude, right? And I want to talk about this. I want to think about this for a second. So let's go through. You did also make another comment that I want to look. So Swedish architecture shows that 80% of them. Swedish architects showed that 80% of them bought houses that look more than 150 years old. Let's have a look. Swedish architects, 80%, 150 on housing. I don't know. If you can find that study or whatever, show me. But you said something else, and I want to talk about this because I think it's an interesting point. Firstly, you're going to be accused of being a reactionary chud for opposing modern Corbusian influence architecture in favour of traditional architecture. Firstly, I disagree with that. I actually don't think this is like a left or right thing. I think people on the left and the right dislike modern architecture because it's inhumane. And so you then go on to say something else, which I want to comment on, right? So, modern socialist-inspired architects. Yeah, modern socialist-inspired architects consider beauty to be bourgeois and reactionary and fascist. I want to make a point here, because I hear this a lot. I get this comment quite a bit when I complain about architecture, and they complain just about socialists, right? They say, oh, these are the sort of crazy socialists that picture this new world. It's like the 1984 Orwellian kind of control, make the new man kind of thing. And I think certainly at some periods in history that was true. I think there was an element of this sort of socialist thing. But I think when you point the finger just at socialists on this, you are missing the very obvious thing. I think there's actually both. This shows like folly in the left and the right politically when it comes to modern architecture, right? So if we take, say, Le Corbusier, which I believe he was a fascist, by the way. I don't think he was. I think he was not a socialist. Le Corbusier was involved in editing free periodical plans, blah, blah, blah. Although the articles in them focused on policies of Italian fascism, they did not turn a revolution of fascist nature into a political program. So, revisiting Le Corbusier as a fascist, I think there's connections between him and fascism. I don't know if he was an avowed fascist or whatever. But effectively, this is often an argument. People say like he was a socialist, or or this whole movement is socialist. I think there certainly is a socialist element to it for sure, because it's like the whole idea of utopian modernist, like build a utopian future. I think we can all agree that probably exists. Like, look at this sort of thing. Awful, Jesus Christ. But this is what I think happened with modernism, and where I think it started as like this sort of left-wing idealism, this sort of like utopian attitude, which is what you're talking about, which is like the lefties went crazy. They were trying to get rid of the tradition, get rid of the past, make utopia, and obviously they made dystopia. Like that's certainly true to some degree. But what people don't then talk about is that what the lefties created through this sort of utopian egalitarian attitude. So if you think about like brutalism, so this is kind of like, I'm trying to get at the point here. If you look at these buildings, brutalist estate or something like this. If you look at these buildings, these are what you could consider egalitarian estates, right? Because all the buildings are the same size, everyone has the same space. There's no class difference. If you live in one of these, you're all kind of the same. Brutalist estate. And so everyone's equal, right? And so people will hear that, and that was certainly an influence in the early days, this sort of more egalitarian socialist attitude in the early days. If you look at it, you can kind of see what people are getting at. But the thing is, maybe that's how it started, but to ignore how capitalism took modernism and brutalism and realised, and this is where really I think it went really wrong, is when the capitalists saw what modernism and brutalism offered them. So where they were making these buildings that were all very similar, using cheap materials, why? So that we can afford to do more. Don't use expensive ornate stuff because that's showy and flashy and that shows class difference. But if we make it all out of concrete, it's all the same, right? So these kind of socialist attitudes, the capitalists, and this is the nature of how capitalism works, any movement, capitalism will swallow it, commodify it, and distill it down to the most profitable, beneficial version of it. So lefties, socialists make this sort of stuff to, fucking make an egalitarian utopia. Right. Capitalists look at this and they go, there's this demand, there's this sort of like new attitude toward building that means that we no longer have to make, I don't know, mansion blocks that look like this, beautiful but cost a lot. We don't have to do this anymore. We can make a fucking Soviet shit tip and people will be okay with that. So we've now effectively completely, like, not even half, like, completely brought the price down on making buildings now. Now, society's okay with this. Society's okay with this. So the capitalists go, oh, that's really handy because we can fucking make these for cheap and we can make shitloads of them and we can make tons of profit. And so this is what I think has happened when you zoom out past the social housing era where this was done off of taxpayer money, which you could argue was more socialist left wing for sure. But when you jump forward to the 90s, the 2000s, 2010s, 2020, where we still make ugly fucking buildings that look like this, we still do it. Why? Because these lefties gave the capitalists a fucking free ticket to not have to make beautiful buildings anymore. They made it, they normalized it, and then the capitalists love that because if we can just make everything cheap, quick, and high profit margins in what is now a housing crisis, like a massive bubble of, like we fucking, what's this new Milton Keynes high rise? I did a video on this on my. Jeez, that isn't it. Fuck me, it's ugly. That's not real, by the way. We have this really ugly new building. Yeah, this is it. Wow, it does not look like that in real life. Oh my god, the fucking is so. All right, this is another thing we have to talk about in a minute. But this is such a dishonest picture. This one over here. I don't know if you can see it. There you go. That picture is a fucking lie. This is what it really looks like. That's what it really looks like. What the fuck? How is that legal for them to do that? That's false advertisement. That's how they sell it to the councils. They show this to the councils. They show that, and then what do they give them? They give them this. That should surely be illegal. Because it doesn't look like that. Because when we... Vision versus reality. This is a really good article from Architectural Uprising, where they show that the vision, like the Photoshop versions that they give to the councils, are never how they look in real life. They never look like that. That's how it looks, and they show there's a few tricks that they always do to make them look really good. Look at this. This is the vision of this building. This was the reality. This is rated one of the ugliest buildings. That's the vision. That's the reality. They do a few things. Sunny day. It's all apparently in architects' world. It's always sunny, especially in the West and in Britain. It's always sunny apparently, but in reality, it's grey and cloudy most of the time. So when you have a building made of glass, you don't get the reflection effect that you would get on a sunny day. It's always colourful somehow, but in reality, it's grey. There's always people around it, but in reality, there's never people around it because no one wants to be around these fucking depressing buildings. It's always like shiny because obviously the sun's reflecting it. In reality, it never does. So these are, and there's always people having fun, enjoying themselves, riding, cycling. But in reality, no one's there because no one wants to be around these fucking depressing places. So anyway, look at this one's ridiculous. It's got a fucking balloon, air blimp or whatever you call it. It's got a rock climbing wall. Yeah, it's insane. This one's got a fucking fox. These are ridiculous. Yeah, that, and they always have greenery. That's another thing to look when they do the documents. They always have greenery. It's never greenery in real life. They never do that. Why? Who knows? Probably too expensive. Whatever. Reality, fake version reality. You know, vision reality. They never look like their documents. Because imagine you work for a council and you're a fucking idiot, because they all are, and someone hands you a document. We're going to make this beautiful building. They hand you this. You go, fuck me. It looks fucking brilliant. And then you get that. Like, you know, yeah. Look at that one. Look how beautiful that's going to look. Reality. Fuck off. That's outrageous. Vision, reality. Vision, reality. It's every time. That's how they do it. They just fucking Photoshop it, make it look amazing. I cannot believe... I mean, this one's... reality. Like, that isn't how things look. That isn't how glass looks. Have you ever seen glass that looks like that? No. So why do they believe that it's going to... This time they're going to do it? Anyway, I was making a point about the left thing. The left wing, right wing thing. So the lefties made this awful modernist style, you could argue, or at least they perpetuated it. But the capitalists, which can be anywhere really, the capitalists realised they gave them a fucking free ride. They're now allowed to do this, and a capitalist will always want to do things for the cheapest version, the highest profit margin they can possibly do, as long as it sells, and it will sell. In a housing crisis, no one's thinking about how beautiful their room looks. They just want to have a roof on their head, right? So this is the big problem. Is we talk, if you're going to complain about leftists, saying that it's their fault for all these ugly dystopian looking buildings. In part it was, but to pretend that capitalism didn't see it as an opportunity to now make the ugliest, shittest buildings, because beforehand, if you say in like, I don't know, actually I'm not going to make this argument, I was going to say in like Victorian era, if you threw up one of these, you get shit on. That's not true. Victorian era had terrible buildings as well. This is one of the things we all have to bear in mind, is there's a survivorship bias, which is that the buildings that exist now that are old are usually the best, most beautiful ones that people loved. All the shit ones got torn down. So we have to always bear that in mind. So this is an isolated incident in the sense that modern architecture, it wasn't like back in the day we were better at it. We've always been shit at it, just the good buildings remain. But effectively, I think what's different now in a way is that we're allowed to build it. Actually, this probably is always true. I'm going to renege this point because I think this has always been the truth. I think back in the day in the Victorian slums, they were allowed to make these buildings and people were going to buy them, right? It's these shitty, awful buildings back in this, this era, which, to be honest, even that still somehow looks a little bit better than brutalism. But regardless, these weren't good quality buildings, so we can't glorify this era of architecture and say that they didn't do the same thing. Capitalists will basically always see an opportunity to cut money, to cut costs and up profits. And that's where I get a little bit annoyed when people say this is just a left-wing thing. I think left-wing people or socialists, they created the problem. Capitalists benefited and exacerbated it and took it to the extreme. Anyway, commie blocks. Yeah, they're sort of commie blocks, but you got to think, we call them commie blocks, but they seem to exist all over Western capitalist societies everywhere. But we call them commie blocks because it gives us a degree of separation of responsibility that our system also loves this style of architecture, despite the people fucking hating it. So I just wanted to rant on that a little bit because I hear that one a lot, and I don't think it's very. I think it's very. What's the word? Partisan. This is a bipartisan problem. That's what I was saying earlier. I don't see it as like, oh, if I complain about architecture, a load of liberals are going to start thinking I don't know, Nick Fuentes. That isn't how it is. Everyone agrees on this issue. Nearly every normal person typically looks at modern architecture and thinks it's ugly and stuff. Why not paint them? Yeah, I don't fucking know. Yes, there is a capitalist incentive to make things cheaper, but also consider how architects are taught and trained in universities. They still idolize modern stuff in their curricula. Yeah, why? Because the capitalist incentive there is to make this stuff. So of course they're going to teach how to make it, right? That's university and stuff isn't teaching them this to, I don't know, depress the human spirit because we need to reduce the individual because that's what the communist regime wants. No, they're doing it because they teach this style of architecture. Why? Because it's what the market demands. I don't think this is some dystopian, like Orwellian, or like a fucking WHO, I don't know, WEF conspiracy. This is just the market demands ugly, cheap shit buildings, and not people will still buy them. And this is where I believe councils and governments should have to step in and say, no, we're not accepting it. No reason. We just don't want to accept this. We want to make sure our cities and towns are beautiful because that improves people's mental health. It is, if you want to be proud of your country, you're proud of your country if the architecture is beautiful. Like, I'm not proud of certain parts of England because they're ugly. But if you ask me about England, I'm going to tell you Oxford, Cambridge is beautiful and that's amazing. And if you want people to be proud of where they're from, proud of their country, give them that. So I think there's arguments to be made. I think also the long-term argument, it's so obvious that building's value retains. The more beautiful a building is, the longer it retains its value. But the problem is the way, again, our capitalist system works, is that short-term investment and short-term gains are better than looking 100 years down the line. If you make the argument that England is going to degenerate and devalue as a nation if we make loads of cheap shit and ugly buildings, that doesn't matter to the investment firms. That doesn't matter to the development companies. Why? Because they don't care about 100 years' time. So this is where government has to step in. They have to see bigger picture. They have to look deeper down the line. Rather than just short-term gains, we need to invest more in architecture. One should also argue about modern train architecture. Oh, I missed your comment. It's disappeared. You haven't mentioned yet that it's better than homelessness for the people living here. Yeah, I agree, but I mean, ultimately, it isn't the decision. The reason we're making these isn't to just end homelessness. But yeah, I get your point. Like, ultimately, we're in a housing crisis, and this is again, why is there a housing crisis? That's the question you got to ask. Why? Because fucking ultra wealthy were allowed to buy up all the houses, but buy up all the assets, and the government didn't then invest money into making social housing. So we're in the problem that we're in now, and then they get away with this. So the problem is earlier. This is like symptomatic for sure. But you are right. It's better than people living on the street, but it isn't really. These aren't going to be. These aren't. This one right here, actually. You know, my comment, right? So you see this, Milton Keynes citizen. Sorry, but they're ugly. I think one of my comments ended up being used. Yeah, this was it. Another simply wrote, "Jesus Christ, it's ugly." That was my comment on the Facebook page, and it got on this article. But yeah, apparently these were meant to be affordable. Let's have a look. Milton Keynes. There was something about this development. Milton Keynes affordable housing. Apparently these were built to be affordable. More affordable homes. No, not this one. Where is it? Apparently they were planned to be affordable, but none of them were affordable. I'm trying to find the article. Let's see if we can find out the name of this. So we got Milton Keynes, New Central Park Square. There we go. Okay, so if we type in Park Square, Milton Keynes. So this is to answer the argument of, well, it's better than people being homeless. People who are homeless are not going to be living in it. Man, there was an article somewhere. I know there was an article. There you go. The rental cost might surprise you. So these are affordable. This ugly piece of shit that I showed you a second ago, this one, these are designed to be affordable. And so you can, well, no, that was like people, if you're going to make the argument that the reason it looks like this because it's affordable housing, I'm pretty sure the rent was insane. So escape, yeah, one person simply wrote, "Jesus Christ, it's ugly." That was your boy. The site has been vacant for over. Yeah. How much is? Yeah, okay. The one, however, would-be residents would have to have a quite hefty income. So this is meant to be our argument that this is for, you know, better than homeless because, you know, these are affordable housing crisis. Yeah. One bedroom flat starts at $1,340 a month, while 2 bedrooms start at $2,180 for this. A month. £2,000 rent a month for a 2-bedroom. Are you fucking kidding me? There are also some 3 bedrooms. One of these is $2,180. I don't know how that stayed the same price. That's outrageous. That's outrageous. That's not affordable, man. That's not affordable. The other thing I heard, someone told me to look into this, so I don't know how I'd even look into this. Someone said to look into the finances behind this project. I have heard, I'm not going to say it because I could probably get done for misinformation on this. So let's try and look into it. So Park Square, Milton Keynes Park Square. This ugly, atrocious fucking development. How do we... Chat, does anyone know how I can like look into... Oh, man, my screen's all fucked up. Did you see what I was looking at when I was showing this? Yeah, probably. Does anyone know how I could look into the finances of this development? I have heard there's investments into this development that are... Let's say they shouldn't be investing in it. It's not their duty to invest in it. That's what I've heard, and I want to look into this. I'm not saying that's the truth. I'm saying that someone told me that, and I need to look into it. So would anyone know what I would need to search in order to try and look into it? Let's go through some chat. Would there be other way to make sure good architecture is equal to short gain income? My opinion is if the government started to force buildings in order to... if they force buildings to build to a certain standard of aesthetic beauty, the market would react and prices would come down on the material costing and the architectural knowledge and expertise. That's how capitalism works. That's good, free market. That's good free market. And the free market... is great at doing that, but it just has to be steered. That's my opinion. I think the free market can't just be left to do whatever, because then you start fucking paying. Where is it? You start paying $1,000. You pay $2,000 a month for that. That's just unchecked capitalism or cronyism. But it's effectively the same thing. Yeah, so outrageous. Capitalism could explain housing, but what about architecture design in prestige buildings? Facadism? Even when architects design non-residential buildings, they do crazy things. What's facadism? Facadism. I think, yeah, one thing leads to another. I don't know kind of your point there necessarily. But if I'm not mistaken, you're sort of saying, why is it when they make their own homes, I don't know. Well, you put in there, you said that most of them don't live in these buildings. Wait, what are you saying? Sorry, man, I misunderstood you. Facadism, even when architecture's design when they do non-residential, they do crazy things. I suppose it's one thing leads to the other. I think the market demands this because it's cheap and shit, and then that creates this ideology that I think you are correct in assessing that there certainly is a strain of ideology amongst modern architects that seem to have them think that this shit's cool. But I think the market dictates that. I think the fact that the market demands that they make this stuff, they get into this or whatever. I don't know. To be honest, I don't think we will ever know until we sat and had a conversation with a modern architecture. And I would love to do that. If anyone knows one, jump on my Discord and DM me. Let me just get the link to my Discord. Invite people. Let's grab that. So yeah, if anyone knows that, jump on the Discord. If anyone can find an architect for me to talk to, because I think you're right. I think capitalism in my opinion, I think capitalism drives this demand for ugly, cheap shit. But then I think you're right that there is some weird ideology amongst architects that they make these weird, ugly buildings, even when it's you don't have the residential argument. Like you can see it in like say I don't think the Sydney Opera House is the most ugly building on earth, but like things like this, I think that's actually not that ugly. I think it's weird, but I think it's the most ugly. But they do it in things like this where you would be making the argument that it's not about just keeping it cheap and shit. I get what you're trying to say. Sorry, Jim, that was way too blunt, bro. What did you say? Did I miss something? You haven't mentioned yet that it's better than homeless people. Yeah, okay. I don't know if you're apologising. If I said something wrong, I don't know what I said, but if you didn't say anything rude there. What building colour do you prefer? It's not about colour. I mean, it really depends. I love personally, I love Cotswolds. I'm not saying this is what everything should fucking look like, because I get that that's not possible. But I love the Cotswolds stone that they use. I forget what it's called. Is it limestone? I don't know. Cotswolds absolutely stunning. Bring back avocado bath suit. Don't know what that is. With how prominent tourism is, it's surprising to me it's not a bigger concern for these councils to make places look good and be attractive to tourists. Yeah, that's the other thing, man. You know what? I want to go make a little Instagram short on this, but do you want to see something fucked up? British History Museum. I saw this. This is British. What's the museum called? Which one is it? Is it Natural History? It might be the Natural History Museum. Natural History Museum. This might be it. Yeah, this is it. Okay, Natural History Museum. Architecture. Okay, this will probably, and if it doesn't, it should, but this will probably break your heart. So look at this incredibly beautiful building. This building, I saw it in person. I went there not that long ago. Natural History Museum. Let's play a video of it. I didn't even finish this. God, I can fucking tangent, can't I? Maybe we'll get back to that. Natural History Museum building. Or tour, maybe. Building. The Natural History Museum. Is this going to be London? I want to get the front of it.
So I'm here at the infamous London Natural History Museum, and I wanted to do a series that really encapsulates the amazing collections that can be found here.
Okay.
Like,
So look at this building.
Incredible. It almost resembles what looks to be a Gothic cathedral. It's got a lot of kind of unusual...
I think this is the biggest crime against architecture that's ever happened. Watch this.
...building itself. So you can see behind me that the architecture here is incredible. It almost resembles what looks to be a Gothic cathedral. It's got a lot of kind of unusual architecture aspects. And many
Look
people
at that.
think this probably had a previous use, but
Look at that, man.
kind of unusual architecture aspects.
It is stunning. When you go there in person, it's utterly stunning, right? And the thing you'll notice when you go there is everyone has their phone and they're taking pictures just of the beautiful building, right? That, I think, one of the most important ways of seeing if people like buildings is, do they take photos of it? If people like something, they'll take a photo of it. Well, or if they're taking a photo to point out how ugly it is or something, maybe. But if you see tons of people doing this at the front of a building, good job, you smashed it, right? So keep watching, keep watching.
Many people must think this probably had a previous use before it became the London Natural History Museum. You're wrong. This was built in the late 19th century, so in 1881 it was completed, but it was always designed with the purpose to be a natural history museum, and it was built as a cathedral to nature. That was its purpose by the first director, Sir Richard Owen. That was his dream. And he didn't want this to be somewhere that the socially elite could only come, and it had a very high price tag. This was a place that anyone and everyone could come and visit for free to see the wonders of natural history.
Whatever happened to this? Tom Scott made a video. Whatever happened to rich people building beautiful shit just for the sake of it? Why can't fucking rich people start flexing on
That
us
was its
again?
purpose. And
They used to. Back in the day, a rich guy would go, you know what, I've got so much fucking money.
Gothic cathedral.
I'm just going to make this absolute work of art and I'm going to give it to the people. We'll make it a museum. They used to do that. That was a thing that rich people did. I don't think they do that anymore. What happened to that? My mic's quiet. What happened to them doing that? What happened to just some rich guy just going, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to flex. I'm going to make this beautiful thing.
It's got a lot of kind of unusual architecture aspects, and many people...
Now they just fucking buy up all the houses. They buy up all the houses that the people want to live in and rent it to them. If you're gonna... Well, I know you can say, yeah, well, why don't the rich people give their money to the homeless? That's better. For sure it is. But if they're not doing that, and they want to flex on us, fucking flex on us like this, please.
Must think
Right,
this
so
probably
keep
had
watching.
previous use before it became the London Natural History
Oh, fuck.
So I'm here as clustering. I've got Excels, really. I can only
Okay.
show you
So
some
look
of
how much they're... In this video, they are absolutely just... You know, they love it. They lap it up. They love this building, right? Understand?
and I'm not doing them any justice,
Let's
but they
show
are
you.
just...
Let's show you this crime against architecture. Will it be in this video? Probably not. Okay, so yeah, all right. Keep watch this whole
and
video.
has extinct.
When you watch
So
this
these-
whole video, all they're focusing on is this part, right? This is the main part. This is the part that everyone takes photos about, right?
For anatomists decided
Okay, so
that it
you
would
watch this
happen.
whole video,
And there were many collections leaked.
and you won't even know what's about to come.
Inside now, she is completely...
Now she's inside, right?
Come and visit.
Okay. So you see the part, right? This whole video that is about the Natural History Museum. What haven't they shown you? There's a big part of this building they haven't shown you, right? I'm going to show you something that will fucking break your heart. So this geezer made this building to flex on us and give us some, you know, fucking beautiful looking shit. This on here, and then one sec, let's get the other part. And this Natural History Museum glass. Okay. Look at this. Okay, this is the same building. When I saw this, let's make it bigger. This is the same building. This is the same building. That right there, that part is attached to the same building. When I saw that, after walking around, it broke my fucking heart. They added this. They added this to that. That beautiful building, they put that on the side of it. And what you notice in that other video is they didn't even mention that. No one mentions it because it is so outrageously ugly. It is horrible. They just put a glass wall on a fucking beautiful old building. They put a glass fishbowl wall, a fucking Great Wall of China, and like covered half the building with just a panel of glass. And like bearing in mind they're trying to show it in the best light possible with this image. But my God, man, that is outrageous. Imagine doing that yeah, that is a travesty. That is just so, in my opinion, so offensive. To do that to such a beautiful building that person spent to give to people, and they put that on it. That's one side, right? And I'm going to show you another side. So when I was there, the other thing you'll notice when they do shit like this, I didn't see a fucking single person taking a photo of this. No one's out here going like this to that glass wall. Why? Because That glass wall, I've been to Primarks that look like this. It's so, yeah, it looks terrible. Yeah. Imagine doing that to this fucking beautiful building. Imagine taking this beautiful building and then just banging that on the side of it and thinking that's okay. And you'll notice, and this is how, as I say, the best measure of what is good architecture or what's a good urban area are people taking videos and photos of it. And I didn't see a single person taking a fucking photo of that. And then that's one bit, right? So they did that, they added that. There's another side, and it's even, I find it actually hard to find this on Google, this side, right? So on the other side, they added this. Again, they've done a nice photo here, but I'm telling you, it does not look like that. So, natural history building, concrete. I don't know what it's called. It's even hard to find this side of it because obviously no one likes it, so no one's taking photos of it, no one's talking about it. But there's another side. So not only did they do that glass wall and make it ugly from the glass wall, cover half the building, they also put a concrete brutalist side to it. So they got a glass side of it and they got a concrete brutalist side. So yeah, you can see it there, but there are better images of it. You can see it. It took me a while to even find what it was called, like when I was looking up, because no one talks about it because it's so ugly. Here's like a theorized version of it. What's it called? I think it's called like the Darwin Centre. Yeah, you see that. You can see it there, just about. You see this just concrete piece. So there's your fucking glass piece of shit one side that they ruined the building with. And then you have this, is it? And that's shot on a fisheye to make it more interesting. A fisheye, so it looks bent. It's not like that. It's flat and straight and it's ugly as hell. When I saw that, I looked at it and I was like, what's that? They attached what looks like a fucking British council office to one of the most beautiful buildings in London. Look at it. They added that to it. Someone thought that that would be a beneficial addition to that. Just fuck me, man. It's a crime how we got rid of all the great roads in the UK. It's embarrassing to think what the original designers and builders would have thought about it. Yeah, that's what's so disrespectful. Like, again, like I love British tradition. I love British traditional architecture. It's so deeply offensive to the people who made that to think that you can fucking just bang a load of concrete over it. You can just whack that on it and no one's going to complain. So presumably, whoever owns the Natural History Museum, they said okay to that. So if we want someone to blame, it's the people who own the Natural History Museum. They added that to it, man. It's so wrong. Bro sees concrete and immediately it's brutalism, whatever, modernism, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, that's probably more modernist. I live in Bath and none of the new buildings fit in with the existing Georgian buildings. Pisses me off. Yeah, exactly. It's Art Deco. You're saying that's Art Deco? Art Deco architecture. So I've seen nice Art Deco and I wouldn't say that looks like Art Deco. Yeah, like to me that's Art Deco. That's Art Deco. Look, the difference being is that there's detail, there's ornamentation. Like look at that, there's so much ornamentation and detailing. I would struggle to define this as Art Deco. There's no detailing, there's no ornamentation. It's glass and concrete. I would say that's brutalist or modernist. But even whatever, that's not my point. Clearly my point is it's ugly and it doesn't work with the building, the beautiful, literally, look at that. Literally priceless building, and then they've whacked that up. That could have been a fucking library in Shittam. I'm a civil engineer and I can explain how this happens. Pulp, please let me know. Maybe Pulp, I don't know. I want to jump on a call with an architect or someone like that. I want to talk to people, because why the fuck does that exist? There are lots of examples of architects renovating modern public buildings in dissonant styles, especially in Amsterdam, Germany, and it's about showing off. Interesting. Yeah, I've seen a lot of these new... I love this new movement at the moment that's starting to happen. I'm loving this new movement that's happening at the moment where you're seeing this like be removed and replaced with this. It's starting to happen. I think it happens a lot in Poland. Yeah, Warsaw, this one. And we're getting this now. New building in Berlin. You're starting to see people do, like, I think it's called neoclassicism. Alright, it's just when you make modern buildings in an older style, but you take some modern elements. Like the bigger windows, that's clearly more modernist and stuff like that. New building, you're seeing this in Poland. Poland are killing it at the moment. Poland is a beautiful country. Berlin, they do it. What else have we got? Oh, that's going to be tragic, lads. Look at this one. So we started with Rotterdam in the 1900s, Rotterdam 1940. So that's obviously World War II has destroyed that building. And then that's what they decided to go to. just put whatever in, mate. We don't give a shit. This is in France, Budapest. Before and after. So there is this movement coming now at the moment of restoring old buildings and sometimes making new buildings in neoclassicism or just sort of like, traditionalist styles with a mixture of new elements. And I'm not just fully shitting on modernism, right? I want to make this clear. Firstly, there are some, and I say it very, loosely, there are some okay looking modernist buildings. But the thing I like about modernism is modernist interior, right? So if we look at modernist interior, no one complains about modernist interior. If we look at this, big windows, nice spacing, minimal colours, like minimalist colours, nice simple colour palettes. Modern interior is fucking brilliant. And that's the one thing that modernists got right, in my opinion. Like, some of these are lovely. Like, that's really nice. That's really nice. All right, big windows, simple, not too much stuff going on. I would even go as far as saying, like, traditionalist. I would even go as far as saying traditionalist interior can sometimes be a bit too much. I don't completely hate it. I like the idea of, like, maximalism is starting to come back a little bit. But I think one of the good things, like this, to me, it's not... I don't hate it. It's beautiful in its way, but I personally would prefer to live in modernist interior. But traditionalist interior is cool to look at, but I don't know if I want to live in that. I don't know if I find that comfortable. And so I'm not just a person who hates modernity and hates the modern world. I think there's lots of great things about the modern world, but I just hate modernist exterior. And why do I think that is, right? I think there is a reason. I sort of thought about this the other day. I think that becomes claustrophobic. Detail and ornamentation can become claustrophobic when you live in it. So that's why, in my opinion, minimalist interior, like this, is more cozy, because in a closer environment, it becomes like more comfortable. Whereas minimalist or modernist, whatever, buildings, we're not so close to it, right? So we're sort of a distance away. We're not completely, like, it's not I'm not in a room full of it, right? So this becomes much nicer because when you walk past it, it's detail, right? You're not walking past that building next to it, or even if you are, it's whatever, you kind of forget about it. But when you look at it as a building, you're sort of away from it. So in the open space, I feel like ornamentation, detail, that's where that shines. And the reason that looks like nothing is because, well, you're far away from it, and it's nothing in an open, like, you got to think the scenario it's in is in like it's in the world, right? It's outside, it's the sky, there's the ground, so it's very wide and open area. So if you make a low detail, plain looking thing, it looks plain against the plain elements, which is probably the sky or the ground or whatever. So that's why that stands out more, because it's detail in a open plain canvas. Whereas if we think about interior, this is just my thoughts. I'm not an artist, so I'm just thinking. Now that you're closed in, it becomes better to have minimal, because now you're in a closed environment. So minimal, simpler looking interior becomes more comfortable and cozy, because now you're entrapped in it. So now you want it to be more simple and laid back and stuff like that. And that's why I think, then when you look at traditional interior, I think it can be a little bit too much. It can be sort of uncomfortable in a way to live in. I think minimalist is the complete extreme. I don't really love minimalism. There's a time and place for it. A coffee shop, it can look quite nice because, there's lots of people in there, so the people become the contrasting element. But I would say I don't love minimalist interior. I think that becomes a bit boring. But modernist stuff's nice, and I think the use of light, the use of simple colours, the use of spacing, it works in an interior closed off environment. Glass walls are great inside. Yeah, agreed. So I'm not, what I'm trying to say is I'm not just fucking shitting on anything modern, because I'm not one of those people. I think the modern world is great in many ways. But I just think the argument against modern architecture is a very fair one. It's ugly. Wood and steel and windows is the new taste. Bank, the new... Glass walls are great inside. Yeah, traditionalist interiors are often gauche. I forget what that word is. And cramped, yeah, I agree. There's an unbelievable material element. People will use cheaper building techniques as new technology becomes available. But still, the public space as a material value for uplifting the mood. Yeah, absolutely agree. And that's... I'm going to be honest with you, mate. Like, capitalism unchecked, I don't think it will really care about that because that's too broad of a market demand. It's not like a market demand is we need a house, all right? That's a quick market demand. The way the economy works is to fulfill that need. That, what you're explaining, which I agree with, is way too broad for many capitalists to kind of see. I mean, there might be some people, you might make an argument that some, I don't know, capitalists might see this and maybe have an investment plan for 15, 20 years to make a town that's beautiful. You could say, okay, this is a good segue, but we'll talk about Poundbury. I really want to talk about Poundbury because Poundbury is super interesting. So let me do that in a minute. Can you look at Antonio Garcia Arblis' home? He's a Spanish architect and made his dream home, which is beautiful and hideous at the same time. Oh, I'm interested. A large part is about building policy. Building policy defines what we work to, and we are told. Oh, interesting. Okay. Pulp, sorry, did I miss what you were saying before? I would like to talk to you. I think you could be really interesting to chat to. Curious to know, do you think a style mixing neoclassical and minimalism would appeal to you? Let's say the museum project of David Chipperfield. Okay, let's have a look. Can you... What's the name of his home? I couldn't find it. Sorry. I don't love that. That looks very boring. This one here. I do like neoclassical where they combine the two. I've seen AI come up with ideas for modern architecture. 1 minute. AI modern architecture. AI is somehow better at architecture than modern architects. Like, the ideas that it's coming up with, people typically ask it to combine modernist stuff with traditionalism, just to make more interesting stuff. Bearing in mind, though, it has the same thing of being able to make it look more pretty with light and etc. But there was an article I read where it was sort of talking about these combination of modernists. Where is it? I'll probably be able to find it. This is one that I think might look okay. This is a building that is like, I think they call it, there's a different name for this style of architecture than just modernism. It's not, I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, gotta go. Good points. Like your architect video. Keep fighting the good fight, Jimmy. I'm a national socialist, not a capitalist. Well, that's a bit worrying. But either way, good conversation. Obviously, if you're joking, that's funny. If not, we clearly disagree. But in a civil world, we should all be able to have a conversation. So where was it? There was like AI photos. So AI neoclassical architecture. I saw this. AI, yeah, this was it. So I saw this article. Where's the title? AI design could bring back beauty and aesthetics of the classical era, says Tim Fu. Now, so this is just AI. People using AI to sort of come up with ideas. I've done it a few times where you just say, design a building that is modern and classical, like a fusion. And so it comes up with things like this, and you go, wow, wow, wow. It's amazing. Stuff like this. So this is like modernist mixed with like Art Nouveau. Like, that's cool. If I started seeing that, I'm probably not going to complain. It might be a bit garish in its context, but it's kind of cool. That is very cool. So that's clearly like, look, all the detail elements and stuff like that. It's very cool. But then it's got the modernist with the big glass. All this stuff. Minimalism here. That's like a minimalist mansion-y interior. All of this. Now, how it is, this looks like something you'd see in like Lord of the Rings, like in where the elves live. But yeah, if AI can come up with these ideas, why can't people do it? You know, why can't people do something similar? You know, the ideas seem to be better here. Yeah, it looks like Gaudi. Yeah, well, that's Art Nouveau, and so that looks a lot like Gaudi. God, Gaudi. What a fucking genius. So I want to hear what Pulp's saying. Building policy defines what we work to and we are told to work to. A large part of it is building policy. So how can we look more into that? Pulp, I've got another interesting story about AI. We are literally being told to use AI to design a building in university. Oh, wow. Pulp, are you on my Discord? Could you send me a message? Because I feel like you'd be a really interesting person to chat to. But yeah, I want to... So building policy UK. Building policy regulations. It's probably... Yeah, regulations UK. Manual to building regulations. All right. Are we going to read this? The regulatory framework, the building control process. Do I need to notify someone? Is a building control body involved? Do the building regulations. Should a building control... I want to know what the regulations are. What? Meeting the technical requirements. Maybe that. Some of these AI ones look like HR Jojo, who designs for alien movies. But in white. Oh, sick. Sci-fi architecture. Yeah. Hey Jimmy, how do you feel about the interior King's Cross? The modernist roof thrown over the old brick Gothic frontage of the old parts. King's Cross interior. I mean, I've been in King's Cross. I mean, it's nice. I think the lighting's nice. I wouldn't say that. Would you consider that modernist? That's not how it looks, is it? You talk about this. I wouldn't say that. I think that's nice. The light comes in nice, and probably it looks awful from outside. Do you mean this? Again, I would say that's cool. It just depends how it looks like from the outside. Is this what you're talking about? In any case, yeah, I'd say from this photo, which again, photos can be very deceiving when it comes to architecture. From this photo, it's not so ugly. It's not so bad. It looks kind of nice. But it depends how it affects the building from the outside. King's Cross exterior. What is this style of architecture? This looks kind of like early modernism, but I might be wrong. I've sent a friend request. It won't let me message. Okay, cool. No, that's St. Pancras side. Let me answer your message. Direct messages. Pending. Are you Atlas? What's your username on? Oh, you're not going to say that in chat, are you? I'm guessing that's you. That has to be you. Pending. How do I know when they sent the request? Can you just give me the first two letters of your Discord name so I know if this is you or not? House name. Okay. So I wanted to go through a few other things, right? So okay, that's you. All right. I was trying to keep your privacy, but you know, if you Pulp, I'll just add you. Pulp, send request. Didn't work. Are you sure that's your Discord thing? It might have a different like adding name. I don't know. If you're in the chat, if you're in like the actual chat, like in the server, just put a message in the server and I'll see you. Same username as on YouTube. Pulp, Anyway, well, if you can join the Discord server, I can relink it. No, it's not coming up, man. I'll just relink the Discord so you can join that. Alright, so what we're going to go through quickly, and then I'm going to jump off stream, because it's just short and sweet, little complainer, is Poundbury, right? Because we want some light at the end of the fucking tunnel. So Poundbury is a new project. Let's find it. Okay. So Poundbury is this like new project that the King of England came up with, where he hates modern buildings and he wants to make a blueprint that architects can follow to make cost-effective, sustainable, modern, beautiful buildings. That's what I think the objective is. So he made this city, and it got a lot of criticism from like newspapers and architects. A lot of criticism because they consider it pastiche. Now, what is pastiche? It just means kind of like a theme park, right? You know, you take something old, like a Disneyland. Take something old and you make a shitty, cheap version, knock off, and it's not real. Like China, for instance. China, Paris. China has a fake Paris. This is it. And people would call this pastiche because it's all in aesthetics. It looks like Paris, but in none of the culture and life. So people will say that about these kind of about Poundbury, which annoys me because it's not. I think it's Poundbury is in Britain, right, and it's using British traditional architecture. So people are calling. Where is my Poundbury video? To call this pastiche, literally to me makes completely no sense. To call this pastiche here, to me, literally makes no sense because it is in Britain. It's Britain, it's British culture, and it's using British architectural ideas. So it's not pastiche. It's not the same as China making Paris, because China never used that architecture. China, that isn't Chinese, right? Whereas the Poundbury is in our style of doing things, right? So it's not pastiche. This is it.
It was a daring experiment, and many thought it was going to fail, but instead the town became a huge success. But how?
Pastiche means cut and paste. So yeah, to copy and paste something. Which I don't think you can make that argument for British architecture in Britain. That's not pastiche. And I don't know, pastiche to me as an argument is really a lazy argument. It means that, we've got nothing else to say. If you're not saying it looks ugly, it's not good. If you're not going to say those words and use a smart word like pastiche, to me it means you haven't got an argument. You just dislike it from an ideological position.
I travelled to this newly unique town. We will incredible story of how a interviewed the very and master planner who designed
it. This is it, Leo Cryer. He's the architect behind it.
You will hear the incredible story of how a visionary planner and future king collaborated on this unique town, turning the king's vision for a harmonious, beautiful Britain into reality.
Yeah, so people say it looks fake, it's too clean. I can believe that, it's a new build.
We will discover...
But bearing in mind, so the argument you have to then make, right? So,
was built
right, let's find a good shot here. So
it's time to the landscape. Now has a pleasant reason. Tact, with a
Fuck me.
People.
Let's make an argument here. It's too clean. There we go, let's
one after the other hurdle was thrown up. Then there were budget managers, faces of Poundbury. It come to it. However, that pounds of Poundbury for Poundbury is approved to be both normal fields, for the most part at least. Queen Mother Square is a bit...
So like this. So one person here says it feels fake because it's too clean, too perfect. And yeah, I think you can make that argument. I agree that it looks sort of too clean and too fake. But then I feel like the burden is on the other person, right? So if he's making this as like an argument against modern architecture, like, look, we need to try different things. He tries different things. And then the people he's critiquing just go, oh, well, it looks too fake and perfect. Then you have to go, and what? And what's your idea? What's your suggestion? Instead of just, you can make that critique, fine. But then are you not gonna have like a counter argument? So your argument, if I'm to read between the lines, not you specifically, Pulp, but just like modern architects, if you read between the lines, the argument they're making is, so let's just stick with what we're doing. Well, no, I prefer fake and too perfect and too pretty versus, I don't know, let's get our favourite example. I prefer too fake and too pretty to this. I'm just going to put it out there, that's simple. And that's their argument, that's the counter argument, is to just make boring blocks. So if they're going to critique it, which they have every right to, they need to then offer a better alternative. So yeah, it feels a bit off, and I think it does feel a bit off. And when you watch videos of it,
are very charming. I especially love the woodlands.
It looks too clean and too perfect.
In the park. It's a hard simple thanks to Bridge spreading beginnings of
but I think if you took most people, dumped them in here, they're going to be a lot happier than in this. Even if it's too clean and too perfect, I think they're not going to argue. They're not going to complain so much than just these fucking Soviet shitboxes. So, you know, like, I can understand, yeah, maybe something about it feels a bit fake. But bearing in mind, and I think also this is something I would argue, so we'll get some other videos of Poundbury. There's like walk around videos. There we go. This is what Poundbury looks like today. I'd also say it looks a little lifeless, but I think
now just trying to protect.
I think it looks a little lifeless, and I think that's a cultural issue because it's a new town. It hasn't got its like built. It hasn't got loads of people living there yet and businesses.
Excuse me.
But look,
still getting over a bit.
Very empty streets. You can kind of see it, but it looks cool. And I think once there's people in there, once there's life in there, then I think it will start looking really cool. But at the moment, it's just too new. But this is the thing. Why can't if we say that it looks too new and we think that that makes it look weird, and it kind of makes sense because all the times that we see this style of architecture, we see it after having aged for a long period of time. Then wouldn't if we're talking about if we're talking about the burden of responsibility, then surely the people who critique it should say, so what we should do is find a way of dating and aging the materials. If we're complaining it looks too new and too fresh, and that means, well, then you've got to create an argument, you've got to present a different perspective, then surely you should suggest something. So either you're going to suggest, all right, well, let's come up with some way of aging the bricks and, I don't know, making them look older, making them look more worn and stuff. So you can suggest that. Or, quietly, and this is what I think really modern architecture is trying to do, they try and say, well, let's just keep doing what we're doing. And what you're doing looks like this. And no one likes it. So I would rather something look too clean, too perfect, and then if you're going to critique it, come up with a solution, which would be, age find a way of spraying down the bricks to make them look aged, distressing them. We do it in fashion. We distress jeans, to give it a kind of less perfect looking feel. So would there not be a way of distressing some of the bricks and stuff? Just thinking, this is called problem solving. If you're going to, I hate when people do this thing and in life where you create something, I make a piece of music or I make some food or something. Someone tries it and they critique it. They go, oh, this bit's not nice. And especially if you're in a team and you're working together, which as a country, and as a discipline, as an industry of architecture, they should consider themselves that, a team in a way. And they don't suggest an improvement. I used to work in marketing, and sometimes you'd come up with a cool idea and people say, it's a great idea, but we can't afford to do this one part of it. And then that's all they would say. They wouldn't say, we can't afford to do this one part, so how about we try it in a different way? Why don't we try do this? And then you're working together to try and make something new and better, understanding the critiques that other people have said, take it on board, learn. But what I see passively happening is people who often make a critique but never bring a solution, They never bring a solution. So make the critique. It's too fresh, too proper, it looks pastiche, and then come up with a solution. Don't just go, so let's stick with what we're doing, because that's lazy, and that's not cool. They say a problem but have no solution. Yeah, absolutely agree. And can't be bothered to work a solution. Yeah. It depends on how people live. Yeah, it depends. At least it's not cheap mock Tudor wooden frames. I don't dislike those cheap mock... not the cheap, but I've seen mock Tudor, and I think it looks fine. So we're complaining it looks too perfect. I get it, but only the English could moan about that, for fuck's sake. Yeah. Also, the buildings they are being compared to have decades, 100 years of wear and tear. Of course, they look clean and perfect. Yeah, exactly. My trouble is not that it's new or fresh, but it's bland. I wouldn't say... Yeah, I think that's just because... once you've got people there, more people, and some of them are businesses, you're going to start to see more character. At the moment, it's a sort of dry framework that people can hopefully do something with. But one of the problems is they have very high and strict... look, it's very plain. But again, if you have kids playing out... This is one of the issues, is that they apparently have quite stringent rules on how you can... can you hang a flag out your window? Probably not. Can you grow your bushes higher than a certain level? Probably not. So yeah, I think there is a fair critique that it does look a bit too perfect and a bit plain. But I think it's better than the alternative. And I think it's a good step in the right direction. It's not perfect. I don't think Poundbury's perfect. I'd like to go visit it and see what it really looks like. I don't think it's perfect. I think it lacks a lot of soul. But I think soul will come with time because, you build something nice, people will come. I think also they made a mistake on the roads, but apparently that was to do with regulations that they had to make the roads like this. They wanted to have it as cobblestone, but they weren't allowed to. And they had to have a certain amount of parking in the centre and stuff like that. So they kind of didn't get the exact vision they wanted. But I think, imagine that, and you got to think location and history. This is in a random place in Dorset, I think. When there's loads of people here and there's stuff going on, there's a street performer here, there's a local business here, I can imagine this place will look cool. I think at the moment it's just because it's empty. It was a real shame that they made this centre, so many cars in the centre, that I think isn't so nice. It just becomes a car park, where this should be a, pedestrianised area. For sure it should be. And they should be allowed to have adverts and advertisement, because that makes stuff look, unique. But, and bear in mind this is a rainy day, and I still think the architecture's nicer. Is the culture there? Look, they've made this from scratch, so they haven't got the culture there, which will take time. But say somewhere like, you know, if you take some of these building styles, if you took one of these building styles and put this on a new build development in a busy town, people are going to live in it, and I think people are going to prefer this style to, like, yeah, what we get, because that's always going to be my counter argument is, well, what's the alternative? British modern house. What's a good example? These are all like nice looking ones. Well, these are like expensive ones. Average. I'll show you like the average British new build. That's the, to be quite honest, that is the alternative we're given at the moment. Stuff like this. So if the choice is between, I don't know, like Poundbury house. If the choice is between a building that looks like this and then a building that looks like this, I'm gonna take that. Even if there's problems with it, it's too pastiche or whatever, I'm gonna take that. By far, I'm gonna take something like this than that, you know. It's missing roadworks, LTN, and tempted traffic lights. Yeah, they don't have all the they did that by design as well. So I don't think they did a perfect job on Poundbury. I think it's what it was meant to be, a roadmap to make beautiful British buildings again. And I think once the place has more people there, and I want to go there and visit it and see what it's like, I just think it will come to life a bit more. Because at the moment, yeah, it just feels like a movie set. A little bit. It's missing roadworks here. I know it's Australian, but still modern architecture. Sorry, I'm kind of... rain stained cracks, litter, gas canisters, booze. Yeah. I think the general thing is sparking stone brick with yogurt and cow shit. But the other is more expensive. Yeah, for sure. I understand it, but this is what I'm saying about, I think the government needs to start just bringing in standards to say, look, it needs to look good. We can't just accept ugly. And then the market hopefully will adapt. That's what I hope. But who knows? Maybe I'm being too idealistic. But what else? Do I have any other videos I want to touch on? I think that was mainly it, you know. I kind of just wanted to go through some modern architecture stuff, because it's a topic I was really on for a while. I still am on it, but I'm kind of on a slightly different one at the moment. But like, look, this place looks cool, and when there's people living there, this will look good. It just needs more people. That's what it's lacking, people. But look, the place looks nice. I'd fucking go here. It's a nice little town, but it just needs people. I don't know. It's weird that there's no people. But then again, it's a new build, so new development. That will take time. Give it 10 years, and then let's have an opinion on this place. I think the idea of it is good. Wait, hold on. What's with all the rules about everything? There were few rules when the style they were iterating on things looked so different. And yeah, that's the other thing. I don't know. We are so strict about rules now, but when we came up with this brutalist shit and this modernist stuff, we weren't so strict on keeping the original look. I know it was all to do with economy. I'm not going to be so naive to think that we had the money post-war. Please look at Glenn Marshall. Well, we had the money. Maybe we had the money, but like we had to build lots of houses in a short period of time. Aussie architecture. What am I specifically looking at? That looks cool, but the reason it probably looks cool is because the lighting, which is not going to be like that all day. That's like nighttime. That to me looks boring. That looks boring. That looks okay. I wouldn't hate that. It looks okay. Look at the 3D printing concrete buildings. 3D. Concrete 3D printing. Yeah, I don't love it. It's interesting, but I don't love it. The other thing to remember is that concrete ages like shit. Like when it gets old and crappy, it looks really bad, as we've seen with like brutalism. Too open and too many cars. Yeah, it's too open. That's a good point. Yeah. In Paris, the building / house you live in has to be identical to how it was in the past. Yeah, I think I think there should be innovation in architecture, but I just think we innovated too far. That's kind of cool, but that's because that's cool. The way they've painted it and added the colour. That's simple and nice. Do I want every building to look like that? Probably not. Might be just what I'm used to, but natural stone, even plain, looks better than brick for me. But I get it's more expensive, less practical. No, I don't. I specialise in that, don't. It won't work in the UK. The openness is concession to cars, yeah. But more greenery. Yeah, more greenery, and bear in mind that takes time, greenery. But they could just put trees there, right? You can take trees and put them, I don't know. It works in the Middle East because they don't live in the same regs. Yeah, that's the other thing. What works in one place doesn't work somewhere else because the colours are different, the kind of materials in the area are different. Anyway, rant about modern architecture done. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to bang in the Discord link one more time. I always love you guys joining the Discord because it means we can chat about these topics more. And I find your input really helpful in these streams. So I just wanted to do a little one because I streamed the other day and I'm writing at the moment. So I'm writing my videos for next month. I've got some cool ones in the work. But yeah, I just wanted to take a little break and stream for an hour. Come chat with you guys, hang out. Let's have a look at this. Hermoscopium House is the name of the house I sent you earlier, but you couldn't find. Okay, let's have a look. Closing this. So what do we think of this? Yikes. I don't love it. What the fuck is that? Is that a house? To me, that's pretty awful. But I mean, in the middle of nowhere in some open grass, like, you know, no, I think that's fucking awful. That looks like, what's his name? Andrew Tate's fucking fort, whatever you want to call that. It looks ugly, super ugly. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. I enjoyed that. The worst looking building are the holiday inns that look like factories. Oh my god, yeah, I agree. Why are they allowed to do that? That's the question. No need for insulation or waterproofing. Good. No need for insulation or waterproofing. Yeah, that's a big thing. Pulp, we need a chat because you seem to know what you're the expert that I need to start knowing. Good job, Jimmy. Like your shit. Thank you. Yeah, that's his home. God. Watch it on YouTube, that house. I'm sure the inside of it looks great, but the fucking outside looks awful.
Architect isn't worried. Here in the suburbs, one architect has chosen to showcase his work by building a really unusual family home. But this architect isn't worried about creating a stir in the neighborhood. He's done something very different.
Wow.
Why are they blurred out?
Place this is a straw. It feels historic,
so
doesn't it? It does.
Such artsy wankers. But look, you're on private property. If you're out of the way, whatever. The rock on top balance.
I mean, this is.
I mean, to me,
held in place by
outrageous.
Is this? Hell. Of bedrooms to
I love
swimming
that they
pools.
blurred this person.
Two bedroom.
They've blurred the presenter. They obviously had some dispute. Insane. Alright guys, been around Battersea Power Station yet? Yeah. Well, okay, let's maybe talk about Battersea Power Station next stream because I went there and I personally really like it, so I'll talk about it. And I think Battersea Power Station is a good example of old and new. The interior is very cool. Yeah, would you call this sort of looked? What is this style of architecture? Because this to me looks like early modernism, where modernism actually used to be kind of cool. Like really early, like I'm talking late 1800s, early 1900s. Concrete is the worst thing for the environment. Yeah, that is so unsustainable. Yeah, but like the interior, this is super nice. Like a mix of old and new. It's really lovely. And like the other surrounding areas are really nice around Battersea. So like that's like cool modernism. All these like houses and stuff, they're nice. Yeah, I like the modernist stuff of the inside and the buildings around, but we'll talk about it another time. Note they said different, not good. Yeah, that's the key thing, man. That's how artsy people do it. Yeah, it's very different. It challenges the norm. That isn't that doesn't mean good. When you challenge the norm, anyone can fucking challenge the norm. Just because you're challenging the norm doesn't mean it's good. That's what artsy people get stuck on a lot. I think just overturning tradition and challenging the norm, that inherently is a good thing. It doesn't mean it's a good thing. It can be a good thing. Sometimes it really is a good thing. But it isn't good in and of itself, and that's what a lot of these architects, I think, do. And a lot of artists in general just want to challenge the norm without... There needs to be a reason and a purpose, and it needs to be done well. Art should be done at a high level, not just, Anyway. Jimmy, would love to see you dive into some visionary architecture, just architecture for the sake of imagination. Yeah, it'd be interesting to look at. Well, maybe next stream. Quite enjoyed this. No interest in architecture at all, and then you started doing videos, and I'm really enjoying learning about it. Yeah, it's a fascinating topic. The same for me. I sort of slowly got into it. So yes, I will see you all in the next one. Love you. Goodbye. Join the Discord. Bye.